"Why are you avoiding my child?" the alien queen asked. I told her the truth. Deathworld Legends, the human embassy on Valeth Prime, stood like a quiet scar of metal and glass among living towers of crystal and vine. The planet itself was gentle by galactic standards. Warm winds carried sweet pollen. Light bent softly through the atmosphere, painting everything in calm colors. To most species, Valeth Prime felt like safety made real. Humans did not relax. They moved with controlled steps, eyes always tracking motion, hands never far from emergency devices. Their faces stayed neutral, trained to hide instinct. Every human present felt it, the same low pressure in the chest that came from standing in an unknown place where the rules of survival were not yet learned. Today was important. It was the formal introduction of the Queen of Valeth and her only child to the Galactic Diplomatic Council. For the Valeth, this was a celebration. For humans, it was a situation filled with unknown variables. The Queen arrived surrounded by attendants, her massive body supported by elegant limarches that touched the floor like living pillars. Her bioluminescent shell glowed with calm authority. When she spoke, the chamber vibrated gently, tuned to frequencies meant to soothe lesser species. Behind her came the child. It was smaller, barely the height of an adult human, with softer plates and brighter colors. Its patterns shifted constantly, glowing blues and greens that pulsed with curiosity. Large, multifaceted eyes reflected everything around it. It moved without fear, stepping away from its guards as if the entire galaxy belonged to it. Aliens reacted instantly. Delegates leaned forward. Some extended feelers, tendrils, or light-based greetings. Soft sounds of admiration filled the hall. Juveniles were sacred symbols to most species, proof of a future without struggle. The humans did not move. Their formation tightened without a word. Boots shifted by millimeters. One human subtly stepped sideways, blocking a direct path between the child and the rest of the delegation. Another adjusted the angle of a wrist-mounted shield, keeping it inactive but ready. The Queen noticed. Her eyes narrowed slightly, glow patterns shifting. She watched the humans carefully as her child wandered closer, fascinated by the strange bipedal beings with unreadable faces. The child took another step. Several humans inhaled sharply at the same time, a reflex they could not fully suppress. The Queen raised one clawed limb, signaling a pause. The chamber fell silent. Confusion flickered through her attendants. No one had ever refused to approach her child before. "Why," the Queen asked, her voice calm but edged with authority, "are the humans avoiding my child?" Every eye turned to the human delegation. The lead ambassador, a tall man with silver at his temples, felt the weight of the moment settle onto his shoulders. This was not a question diplomacy manuals prepared one for. He stepped forward slowly, careful not to startle the child or show threat. "We mean no disrespect," he said evenly, "but we request a private discussion." Whispers rippled through the chamber. The Queen hesitated, then nodded. She gestured for attendants to guide her child away, though the child resisted briefly, clearly disappointed. As they moved into a quieter chamber grown from translucent crystal, the ambassador exhaled. His heart was beating faster now. He knew what he was about to say would sound wrong to almost every species in the galaxy. The Queen turned to face him fully. "Humans are known as fearless," she said. "You come from a death world, yet you recoil from a child. Explain." The ambassador did not rush his answer. "Your Majesty," he said, "humans do not fear your child, we fear what we do not understand." The Queen's glow dimmed slightly, a sign of displeasure. "My child is harmless." The ambassador nodded. "So are many things on Earth," he said softly, "until they are not." He explained without drama. Humans evolved on a world where danger hid behind beauty. Bright colors often meant poison. Small creatures could kill grown adults. Many of the deadliest things on their planet did not hunt with aggression, but reacted without warning when startled. "On Earth," he continued, "children are taught early to never approach unknown animals, especially their young. Not because they are evil, but because instinct and reflex can be more dangerous than intent." The Queen listened, intrigued despite herself. "You believe my child would harm you?" "No," the ambassador said. "We believe your child might react." The Queen paused, then she spoke slowly. "My child's defensive systems are not yet fully controlled." The ambassador closed his eyes briefly, then opened them. "That is exactly why we kept our distance." Before either could speak further, a deep vibration rolled through the embassy. Not an attack, not a weapon. A structural resonance pulse caused by a minor calibration error in the living crystal walls. To most species, it was nothing. To the child, it was a threat. The child's glow flared violently. Energy surged outward in a reflex older than thought. A wave of force exploded through the chamber, shattering decorative alloys and throwing diplomats across the floor. Screams echoed. Guards froze, overwhelmed by the speed of it all. The humans moved. Barriers snapped into place in perfect coordination. Not aimed outward, but inward, shaping the energy away from vulnerable beings. Two humans dove toward alien delegates, dragging them behind cover. A medic was already moving before the last echo faded. The energy dissipated. Silence followed. The child stood frozen, shock rippling through its glowing shell. It had not meant to do this. It did not even understand what it had done. The queen stared in disbelief. Her people lay injured. Her guards stood helpless. The humans were already treating the wounded. No weapons were raised. No accusations spoken. The ambassador approached slowly, kneeling to reduce his height, voice calm. "It's all right," he said, not to the child alone, but to the entire room. "No one is angry." The queen felt something unfamiliar settle in her chest. Understanding. When the emergency ended and calm returned, she faced the human ambassador again. Her voice was quieter now. "You knew," she said, "you knew this could happen." "We suspected," the ambassador replied. "That is why we prepared." The queen looked toward her child, unharmed only because humans had anticipated danger before it arrived. "You avoided my child," she said slowly, "because you wanted everyone to survive." "Yes," the ambassador answered simply. For the first time, the Queen of Valeth Prime truly saw humanity, not as reckless deathworlders, but as survivors shaped by a world that never forgave mistakes. And somewhere deep within the quiet halls of the embassy, a new legend began to take form. The chamber smelled of cracked crystal and burned air. Soft light flickered unevenly along the living walls as Valeth attendants worked to stabilize the structure. Injured diplomats were carried away on floating platforms, wrapped in glowing medical membranes. The hum of emergency systems filled the silence left behind by fear. The queen remained still at the center of the room. Her massive form no longer radiated calm authority. Instead, her glow shifted slowly, unevenly, a sign of deep internal conflict. Her child stood close to her now, smaller limbs drawn inward, patterns dimmed in confusion and shame. Across the chamber, the humans finished their work. They moved with quiet focus, checking vitals, sealing wounds, and offering water and reassurance to alien beings who looked nothing like them. No human complained. No human panicked. When the last injured delegate was taken away, the humans stepped back into formation, waiting. The queen watched them carefully. "You prepared for this," she said at last. The human ambassador inclined his head. "Yes, you expected my child to lose control." "We expected the possibility," he corrected gently. The queen's attendants shifted uneasily. Among the Valeth, preparation for harm implied distrust. Among humans, it meant responsibility. This difference hung heavy in the air. The queen gestured with one limb, dismissing her guards. "Leave us," she ordered. "Take my child somewhere safe." The child hesitated, eyes fixed on the humans, then it allowed itself to be guided away. As it left, one small limb lifted, almost like an apology. The queen turned back to the ambassador. "Explain your kind to me," she said. "Not as diplomats, as survivors." The ambassador took a slow breath. He knew this conversation mattered more than any treaty. "Humans evolved on a world where mistakes were fatal," he began. "We learned early that intent does not matter, only outcomes do." He spoke of Earth in simple terms. A planet where storms destroyed cities without warning, where animals defended territory with sudden violence, where even microscopic life could end millions of lives if ignored. "We do not see danger as evil," he said. "We see it as natural." The queen listened, glow steady now. "Yet you did not attack my child, you did not restrain it, you did not raise weapons." "We had no reason to," the ambassador replied. "Your child did not choose to act, it reacted." He explained that humans feared reactions more than plans, a startled animal, a frightened parent. A machine malfunction. History had taught them that most disasters were accidents, not crimes. "On Earth," he said, "children are taught rules that seem harsh. Do not touch, do not assume, do not get close just because something is beautiful." The queen's eyes dimmed. "In our culture, beauty is safety," the ambassador nodded. On ours, beauty is often a warning. Silence stretched between them. Beyond the chamber, word spread quickly. Other species had witnessed the event. They had seen a royal child nearly cause mass harm. They had seen humans react without aggression and without hesitation. Rumors grew. Some said humans had known exactly what would happen. Others whispered that humans could predict the future. A few wondered if humans had somehow caused the incident. The queen sensed this unrest. She turned to the ambassador again. "My people will question your motives." "They should," he said calmly. "Questioning keeps people alive." She studied him. For the first time, she realized something unsettling. Humans did not need to dominate to be dangerous. Their strength lay in anticipation. Later that cycle, the queen summoned the ambassador to her private chamber. It was a vast space grown from layered crystal, filled with softly moving light. There were no guards inside. "I reviewed the data," she said. "Your barriers activated before the energy surge peaked. Yes, you positioned yourselves where the wave would be strongest. Yes, you shielded others before yourselves. Yes," her glow shifted sharply, signaling emotion. "Why?" The ambassador did not answer immediately. "Because that is what survival looks like when you live among others." He explained that humans learned cooperation under pressure. Lone survival was rare on Earth. Communities lived or died together. Protecting others increased the chance that someone would protect you in return. The queen considered this. "Your kind should have destroyed itself long ago." The ambassador smiled faintly. "We tried many times, we learned." She moved closer, lowering her massive form until her eyes were level with his. "Tell me the truth," she said. "Are humans afraid of my child?" The ambassador met her gaze. "Yes," the queen's glow flared. "And yet," he continued, "we are more afraid of failing to protect life." Her glow softened. In the cycles that followed, joint investigations began. Valith scientists worked alongside human analysts to study juvenile reflexes. The results were troubling. The child's defensive output exceeded adult estimates by nearly 30% under stress. The queen felt shame ripple through her people. They had trusted tradition over data. Humans shared protocols developed for dangerous wildlife and unstable environments. Safe distances, controlled exposure, calm signals, layered protection. The galaxy watched closely. Some species mocked the precautions. Others quietly adopted them. The queen's child, meanwhile, grew curious about the humans. From behind safety fields, it watched them train. Watched them practice drills for disasters that might never come. One day, against protocol, the child approached a transparent barrier separating it from the humans. It pressed a limb against the field. The ambassador noticed. He approached slowly, stopping at a measured distance. He knelt again, lowering himself. "Hello," he said. The child's glow pulsed softly. "You are not angry?" the child asked, voice translated into gentle tones. "No," the ambassador replied. "We understand accidents." The child tilted its head. "You are afraid." "Yes, yet you stay." "Yes," the child considered this. "On Valith, fear means weakness. On Earth," the ambassador said, "fear means you are paying attention." The child's patterns shifted in thought. Above them, the queen watched through observation light. She felt something change within her understanding of power. Humanity was not fearless. Humanity was careful. And in a galaxy full of beings who had forgotten how to fear the unknown, that made humans quietly, dangerously exceptional. Far beyond Valith Prime, other worlds took note. Deathworld legends were spreading. The days after the incident passed with uneasy calm. Repairs were completed quickly, but trust was slower to heal. The embassy halls were quiet now, not with peace, but with caution. Delegates spoke in lower voices. Meetings were delayed. Eyes followed the humans wherever they went. The humans noticed everything. They noticed the way some species kept their distance, no longer out of comfort but suspicion. They noticed how security patterns changed, how drones lingered longer near human quarters. They did not complain, they adjusted. The queen felt the tension like a weight pressing against her thoughts. Valith Prime had never hosted fear before. Disagreements, yes, politics, certainly, but fear was new and it spread in silence. The Galactic Council demanded answers. A formal inquiry was called, not as an accusation, but as clarification of events. The wording was polite. The meaning was not. Too many species had seen what happened. Too many had drawn their own conclusions. The chamber was full again, though the mood was nothing like the celebration that had preceded the incident. Holographic displays replayed sensor data. Energy graphs pulsed in cold colors. Every delegate watched closely. The Queen addressed the council first. She spoke honestly, admitting that her people had underestimated their own child's defensive reflexes. This alone shocked many species. Queens did not admit error. Then the focus shifted to the humans. The lead ambassador stood once more before the assembly. He felt the familiar pressure of being misunderstood, but this time he did not feel alone. Behind him stood not just humans, but data, evidence, and experience carved by survival. A delegate from a water world spoke first. "How did humans know where to stand?" it asked. "The energy wave was unpredictable," the ambassador nodded. "It was unpredictable in exact shape," he said. "Not in possibility," he explained in simple terms. Humans always assumed systems could fail, buildings could resonate, children could react, machines could malfunction. Where others planned for success, humans planned for error. A crystalline species interrupted. "You planned for disaster at a diplomatic event. That implies expectation." "Yes," the ambassador replied calmly. "We expect accidents." Murmurs spread. Another delegate leaned forward. "Some believe humans manipulated the situation to prove superiority." The room grew tense. The ambassador did not raise his voice. "If we wanted to prove superiority," he said, "we would have done nothing." That quiet statement unsettled the room more than any threat. The Queen watched the council carefully. She saw fear forming again, but this time it was fear of truth. A truth many advanced species had forgotten: safety was not permanent. To resolve the matter, the council proposed a test. Not a challenge, they insisted, a demonstration. A controlled environment where humans could show their predictive methods. If humans truly relied on preparation, they should be able to identify risks others overlooked. The ambassador agreed without hesitation. The test took place in a shared simulation chamber. It was a replica of a neutral trade station, filled with multiple species, artificial gravity zones, and energy systems calibrated to perfection. According to the council's engineers, it was completely safe. The humans entered last. They did not rush. They did not speak much. They observed, they marked exits, they noted ceiling structures, they asked questions about power redundancy and emergency response times. Some delegates grew impatient. "Nothing is wrong," one of them said. "Not yet," a human analyst replied. Minutes passed. Then one human stopped. She pointed toward a decorative energy conduit running along the upper wall. "That junction," she said, "it's overloaded." The engineers protested. "Impossible, it's within tolerance." "Yes," the human said, "under normal conditions." She explained that tolerance assumed stable temperature and uninterrupted flow. But the simulation included species with heat output beyond baseline. Over time, the conduit would weaken. "How long?" the ambassador asked. 37 minutes, the analyst replied. The council laughed nervously. 34 minutes later, the conduit failed, not catastrophically, not violently, but enough to cause a cascading power fluctuation. Gravity shifted briefly. Several delegates lost balance. One species panicked, releasing defensive spores. Humans moved instantly, guiding beings to stable zones, activating emergency dampeners they had quietly requested earlier, just in case. The simulation was halted. Silence filled the chamber. The council had its answer. Humans did not see the future, they saw probability. After the test, opinions shifted, but not uniformly. Some species felt relief, others felt exposed. A few felt threatened. The Queen's child watched all of this from a secure observation chamber. It had been allowed to observe under strict controls. Its curiosity burned brighter than ever. "You see," the Queen said gently, "the humans are careful." "They are afraid," the child replied. "Yes," the Queen said, "and because of that they protect." The child thought about this. On Valeth, strength was calm certainty. On Earth, strength seemed to be constant awareness. Later, during a controlled interaction session, the child asked to speak with the ambassador again. The chamber was prepared carefully. Distance markers, energy dampeners, clear signals. Humans and Valeth scientists monitored every variable. The ambassador entered alone. He stopped at the marked position and knelt, hands visible. The child spoke first. "If I am dangerous," it asked, "why do you speak to me at all?" The ambassador considered the question. "Because danger does not mean evil," he said, "and avoiding something forever does not make it safer. Understanding does." The child's glow shifted. "On Valeth, no one teaches children they are dangerous." On Earth, the ambassador replied, we teach children that everyone can cause harm even by mistake. That lesson saves lives. The child was silent for a long moment. Then it asked, do humans fear themselves? The ambassador smiled, but there was sadness in it. More than anything? That answer stayed with the child. As cycles passed, new protocols were adopted across the station, not just for Valeth juveniles, but for all species. Humans assisted quietly, never claiming credit. Still, not everyone was convinced. A faction within the council argued that humans were too cautious, too focused on worst-case thinking. They claimed such thinking slowed progress. Then a real emergency came. A trade vessel docked unexpectedly with unstable cargo. The sensors showed nothing alarming. Standard procedure allowed it entry. Humans requested a delay. They noticed subtle discrepancies in mass readings and energy signatures. Nothing definitive, just wrong enough. The request was denied. Minutes later, the cargo destabilized, releasing a burst of exotic radiation. It was not deadly, but it was chaotic. Systems failed. Lights died. Panic spread. Once again, humans acted before commands were issued. They sealed corridors, guided evacuations, and deployed shielding equipment they had kept ready despite being told it was unnecessary. Lives were saved. The council could no longer ignore the pattern. The queen stood before them once more. Humans do not dishonor safety, she said. They remember it. She looked around the chamber. We built our civilizations so well that we forgot how easily they break. Humans did not. The child, watching from afar, felt pride rise within it. Not pride in power, but in restraint. The galaxy was beginning to understand. Humans were not legends because they conquered worlds. They were legends because they survived one. And they never forgot how close everything always was to falling apart. The shift in opinion did not happen all at once. Change in the galaxy never did. It came in layers, quiet and slow, like pressure building beneath a stable surface. After the simulation test and the cargo incident, more species began to listen to humans, but listening was not the same as trusting. Trust required time. Valeth Prime became the center of something new, not an alliance, not a movement, a question. Other worlds sent observers, scientists, and diplomats to understand why humans kept seeing danger where others saw peace. The humans did not claim wisdom. They simply shared methods. They taught how to run drills for events that might never happen. How to build redundancies no one wanted to pay for. How to ask uncomfortable questions during moments meant for celebration. Many species found this exhausting. Some found it insulting. But a few found it life-saving. The Queen supported the effort openly. She authorized mixed training exercises between Valeth security and human response teams. At first, her people struggled. Their instincts were built on confidence and control. Humans trained as if control was temporary. The difference became clear during a joint exercise involving evacuation timing. Valeth units waited for full data confirmation before moving civilians. Human units began moving people immediately, based on partial signals and worst-case projections. When the exercise ended, the results were undeniable. Human protocols reduced simulated casualties by almost half. This assumes failure, one Valeth commander said, troubled. Yes, a human officer replied, because failure does not need permission. The Queen watched these sessions closely. Each one forced her to re-examine centuries of belief. Valeth culture prized harmony so deeply that it avoided imagining chaos. Humans lived with chaos as a constant companion. Her child observed as well. Under strict supervision, the child attended several training sessions from behind layered barriers. It watched humans repeat drills again and again, correcting small mistakes that seemed meaningless to Valeth observers. Why do they repeat what they already know? The child asked one of its tutors. Because knowing is not the same as remembering under stress, the tutor answered, repeating words learned from a human. The child stored that thought carefully. Then came the warning. It arrived as fragmented data from a distant relay station at the edge of Council space. Signals degraded. Automated systems failed one by one. No distress call, just silence where activity should have been. Most species assumed technical failure. Relays broke sometimes. Repairs would be sent. Humans did not agree. The patterns were wrong. Failures were sequential, not random. Redundancies were not activating. Something was interfering. The human ambassador requested an emergency session. Several delegates objected. The relay was far away. No confirmed threat existed. Resources were limited. The ambassador stood firm. "If we wait for confirmation," he said, "we will confirm loss." The Queen supported him. Her voice carried weight now. A reconnaissance task force was assembled, small and fast. Humans insisted on layered shielding and evacuation contingencies. Some species mocked the caution, but no one stopped them. The task force departed. What they found shocked everyone. The relay station had not failed. It had been disabled by a previously unknown energy phenomenon. Not an attack, not a weapon. A natural spatial instability, rare but devastating. It distorted systems, disrupted communication, and built pressure silently until collapse. Worse, the instability was spreading. Projections showed it would intersect with a major trade route within weeks. Panic followed. The council scrambled. Trade lanes carried food, medicine, and energy resources. Disruption would destabilize dozens of worlds. Evacuation was considered, but many species had never evacuated anything larger than a city. Humans moved before orders finalized. They shared models, not perfect ones, probabilistic ones. They showed where the instability might go, not where it would go. Many found this unacceptable. "We cannot act on maybes," one delegate argued. Humans answered with numbers, casualty estimates, infrastructure loss, recovery times. The Queen stood beside them. "We acted on maybes once before," she said, "and lives were saved." Reluctantly, the Council approved a joint response. Human engineers worked with alien physicists to design mobile stabilizers. The devices were experimental, untested at scale. Humans insisted on backup plans for the backups. Time ran short. As the instability approached the trade route, unexpected fluctuations increased. Sensors fed contradictory data. Some ships began experiencing navigation errors. Evacuation orders went out late, too late for some. A civilian convoy was caught near the edge of the unstable zone. Engines failed. Communications broke down. Panic spread among crews unfamiliar with true emergencies. Human vessels diverted without waiting for command. They approached carefully, using manual navigation where automated systems failed. They guided ships out one by one, talking crews through fear, keeping voices calm even as readings worsened. One human ship took the brunt of a surge. Systems overloaded. Hull stress alarms screamed. The crew did not abandon position. They held long enough for the last convoy ship to escape. The human vessel survived, damaged but intact. When the crisis ended, silence filled the council chamber again. This time it was heavy with respect. The Queen's child had watched the entire event unfold through delayed feeds. It saw humans choose risk not out of bravery but responsibility. Later, during a controlled meeting, the child spoke to the ambassador again. "You knew you might fail," the child said. "Yes," the ambassador replied, "and you acted anyway." "Yes," the child's glow pulsed slowly. "On Valith, failure brings shame. On Earth," the ambassador said, "failure brings lessons. Only refusing to try brings shame." The child absorbed this quietly. In the days that followed, something changed across the station. Drills increased. Safety systems multiplied. Not because humans demanded it, but because others asked. For the first time, species began designing for what could go wrong instead of what should go right. The Queen addressed her people publicly. She spoke not as a ruler, but as a learner. "We believed peace meant absence of danger," she said. "Humans have shown us peace is built by preparing for it." She declared a new title, not as ceremony, but as recognition. Humans would be known as Deathworld legends not for their strength, but for their restraint. Not for surviving destruction, but for preventing it. The galaxy listened. And far beyond Valith Prime, in places where systems hummed quietly and civilizations slept comfortably, small changes began. Extra safeguards, extra drills, extra questions, all because one species remembered what it meant to live on a world that never promised safety. And one child learned that fear, when guided by care, could protect more lives than confidence ever had. The galaxy did not change overnight. It never did. But after the instability crisis, something fundamental shifted in how civilizations thought about safety, power, and responsibility. Valith Prime became quieter, not from fear, but from awareness. New safety systems were installed across the station. Emergency drills became routine. Children of many species were taught not just how to celebrate life, but how to protect it. Humans did not stand at the center of these changes. They worked in the background, answering questions, sharing data, and stepping aside when others took the lead. That was what impressed many species the most. Humans did not demand authority, they earned trust. The queen watched this carefully. From her throne chamber, she observed humans interacting with diplomats, engineers, and civilians. They were polite, calm, and always alert. Never relaxed in the way other species were, always prepared. Her child spent more time observing humans than anyone else. Under strict guidance, the child began training sessions of its own. Not combat training, but control training. Learning how to recognize stress responses. Learning how to pause, breathe, and signal instead of reacting. Human instructors were invited as advisors. They spoke gently, they never raised voices, they never treated the child like a threat, but they never ignored the danger either. Control does not mean weakness, one human instructor said during a session. It means strength with direction. The child practiced again and again, and it improved. One cycle later, a ceremony was planned, not a celebration of humans, but a recognition of shared survival. The council chamber filled once more, this time without tension. The queen stood before the assembly, her glow bright and steady. She spoke of tradition, of how her people had believed safety was guaranteed by stability. She admitted openly that this belief had nearly caused tragedy. Then she turned toward the humans. "You come from a world that tried to kill you at every stage of your evolution," she said. "Instead of becoming cruel, you became careful." Murmurs spread. She raised one limb. "Today we do not honor humans for strength, we honor them for memory." At her signal, the chamber lights shifted. A title was displayed across every translation system. Deathworld Legends, not as a rank, not as command, as recognition. The human ambassador felt something tighten in his chest. He had never sought this. None of them had. But he understood its weight. He stepped forward. "We accept," he said simply, "on one condition." The queen inclined her head. "Speak." "That this title remind everyone," he said, "that legends are built from mistakes survived, not victories won." The chamber fell silent. The queen nodded slowly. "Agreed." Then something unexpected happened. Her child stepped forward. There were gasps across the hall, guards tensed. Humans instinctively adjusted their stance, but did not retreat. The child stopped at a carefully marked distance. Its glow was calm. Controlled, focused, it looked at the humans, then at the assembly. "I once thought you avoided me because you feared me," the child said. It paused, choosing words carefully. "Now I know you avoided me because you valued life." The child bowed, not as a ruler's heir. As a learner, the gesture echoed across the chamber, deeper than any speech. In the cycles that followed, the effects spread outward. Trade routes adopted new safety margins. Ships carried more redundancies. Emergency response teams trained with human advisors. Even species that once mocked human caution quietly revised their protocols. Disasters still happened, but fewer lives were lost. On Valeth Prime, the embassy became a center for shared learning, not command, cooperation. Humans hosted seminars titled with simple names. "What if things go wrong?" Attendance was always full. The queen's child grew. With guidance, its reflexes became disciplined, its instincts refined. It learned that power without control was danger, and control without awareness was illusion. One day, long after the initial incident, the child approached the human ambassador again. This time, no barriers were needed, just distance and trust. "You are still afraid," the child observed. "Yes," the ambassador replied honestly. "And yet," the child said, "you smile." The ambassador nodded, "because fear no longer means surprise." The child thought about this. Far from Valeth Prime, a new crisis emerged. A star system experienced sudden gravitational instability. Early models were unclear. Panic threatened to spread. Before fear could take hold, humans shared probability maps, not certainties, possibilities. Evacuations began early. Millions of lives were saved. No one cheered. No monuments were built. That was the human way. Years later, historians would argue about when the galaxy truly changed. Some would point to the instability crisis, others to the cargo incident. Many would return to one simple moment. A group of humans choosing not to approach a child, because they understood something others had forgotten. That innocence did not remove danger, and that responsibility began with restraint. The queen would often reflect on this as she watched her now-grown child guide younger ones through training sessions, teaching them calm before reaction, awareness before action. Human advisors stood nearby, not directing, only observing. Their work was nearly done. One quiet cycle, as the stars shifted gently above Valeth Prime, the Queen asked the human ambassador a final question. "If your world was so dangerous," she said, "why did you survive?" The ambassador looked out at the stars before answering. "Because we never assumed we deserved to," the Queen understood. And the galaxy, wiser now, carried that lesson forward. Humanity was not celebrated because it conquered the stars. Humanity was celebrated because it arrived carrying warnings instead of weapons. Because it remembered the cost of forgetting danger. Because when faced with the unknown, humans did not rush forward. They prepared. And in doing so, they taught the galaxy how to survive itself.